talk to somebody. It was so much fun. So then I ended up going, and people kept offering. I have like a list of probably over 100 people who offered and I'm like, I've got to stop somewhere because I'm about to have to go back to work, and now I have to start analyzing all of this. And so I really started looking at all of them. I read them a lot. I kept rereading them. I was listening to them. That's where, like, Yejing Park Roberts from NYU Stern, who's a PhD, her doctoral advisor was like, she's studying play and work, and she had a research assistant she thought would be interesting to help me sort of think about how to work with all of this data, basically. And Yejing, God bless her, was like, can I look at it quantitatively? And it's like, God bless you, I'll never do that. I'm very curious about qualitative. I was looking for stories and the things that we share and the themes that come out of that. And so, in my mind, I found a great package. Well, they're now the same thing. Everybody was recommending, it's been a while since I did qualitative research. I was sort of in administration. I ran a program for like 17 years, so I was like busy. And I was like, what's the best tool? And the ones that kept coming to the top were Atlas TI. Has anybody heard of Atlas TI? And NVivo. And I was like, they both have a free trial. I'll try them both. NVivo, I could not figure out how to get that thing to work. And Atlas TI, in my mind, was fascinating to me, is Atlas TI. Without the manual, I could get it to do everything I wanted it to do. And I was like, oh my God, this is really good UX UI design. So I almost wanted to start teaching my students, like, I can figure out how to work. They're doing brilliant design just by helping me use it. Because I was really curious. I wanted to go through the interviews, tag what you said, and go like, she said this thing, and it reminds me of performance. And then sometimes I want to, in my mind, leave a footnote and go like, this is really important. Like, first person that I talked to that mentioned their kids, sort of thing. And Atlas TI, I call those memos. And then it would let me then go, I'm looking for everybody who talked about performance, and I could like do a little query and it'd run it all out for me, and I was reading it, and it tagged it up with the audio, so it was really easy to scrub through the audio from like, what did this person say? Because this transcript says something that doesn't make sense. So anyways, shout out to Atlas TI, but NVivo and Atlas TI combined. I have no idea what that means for the two tools moving forward. They're now the same company. Can't remember who acquired who. I think NVivo acquired Atlas TI. So anyways, I was doing that going, oh my God, there's these themes that were coming across all these fields. And I started going, maybe it's in a thematic oral history, where I start going like, well, a lot of people talk about performance, or music came up a lot, improv came up a lot, engagement came up, struggle, like people going like, I don't feel like I can play because I'm an adult. And I've been told to take it seriously. Or my parents were worried I was too playful, things like that. Being transgressive came up a lot, like how play can allow you to sort of transgress norms and things like that. So I was like, I could pull this together. So then I started going, well, I'm going to have to talk to my interview subjects who, when I reached out to them, I said, I want to interview you and I'll have a transcript and we'll probably publish them in edited form. And I said, well, what if I take your interview and rip it apart and say, like, Jessica said this, and Emily said this, and Scott said this. It's all about, and I started trying to make it look like it's a conversation they're having, because that's what it felt like. It felt like we were in conversation with each other. And God bless these, they were like, okay, can we look at it before you publish it? I'm like, sure. So that took a while as I sort of figured out how to shuffle it together. And it really came together really nicely. And what was then inspiring is I started doing talks almost 2 years ago. I've done this study. Like, you came to one. Like, and it's like, now the book's out. If you're interested in the book, it's £5 because it's 800 pages. There's several copies here. We did color because we did art for all of that. If you're interested in the book, apparently they're going to shuffle me over there and I'm going to sign them. And it's expensive because it's an 800-pound book. 800-page book. 800 pounds. 800-page book. But my wife was like, when we got them, because I had to do proofs and everything, so when they all came, I was like, this is a lot. I was joking with Games for Change, like, it's 40 pounds worth of books coming your way. Because we were worried, would somebody want to take 5 pounds home on the plane? But anyways, it's wonderful, and we published it through Play Story Press. I'll tell you more about that. I'm meandering because that's my want. It's open access, so if you're like, I'd love to see this, but I don't want to take a book, you can download it for free as well. But if you're interested in actually having a physical copy, if you're like me and you like to read a book, it's 10% off, so instead of $110, it's $100 here at the festival. And that's like as cheap as we could sell it. So we're really trying to help get it out there, but also like it's a wonderful object, it's beautiful. If you've heard me say this before, she will remain unnamed, but my wife did all the art for the book, and I think she took something that I think is a brilliant manifest or archifact, she made it a beautiful book. So it's just so cool. That's why it's color, because I'm like, oh, and then we matter. We like really worked hard together to like, she's doing collage. Like, I felt like it was a textual collage coming together, and like a symphony of all our voices, and she's a collage artist. So we started looking through her art and pulling, so she created and curated specifically for the sections. So that even if you're like, I don't know why that picture goes to that section, that we picked it for a reason, because we're punks. So all that to say, what was so cool about this and inspired me so much, it did inspire me to find Play Story Press, because I'm like, oh my God, there's this community of us, and we're amazing. What if and I had it publishing, I don't know if anybody heard of ETC Press, it was open access publishing and print. I founded at CMU 20 odd years ago now. And I started negotiating with CMU, I'm gonna spin it out, have it be out of the ivory tower. And we run it publicly, and it's a nonprofit. CMU was great, so just like, we're gonna keep the name, you take a new name. Everything was open access anyway, so like, we can't really stop you, nor would we want to. So Play Story Press sort of came out of that sort of inspiration. And then when I started doing these talks that some of you have been to, for me, the most fun part was when I shut up. Because we all have stories about play in our lives. What's so interesting is like, everybody has an idea. Like, I gave a talk like this to a group of retirees. Osher, are people familiar with Osher? It's a lifelong learning institute at universities where you give classes and stuff for people who were, so it's like a group of 80-year-olds. And it was so interesting to talk to people who were like, at that point in their lives going, okay, let's think about play in our lives. Because there was one guy there, any example we brought, like I was like, oh, every day I take my dog for a walk in the woods. It's one of the best. And he's like, what if you're scared of dogs? And I was like, yeah, well, that could be true. And I was like, no, I grew up on the water. I love to swim. I can't swim. And we're like, okay, well, let's talk about how play is different for everybody. And then some lady who's the oldest in the room, because she asked, she's like, I'm 87. Anybody older? Nobody was. And she's like, I must have been like, she's like 5 years ago, so I was 82. She's like, and I saw this thing like the world's longest zip line was in Abu Dhabi. For whatever reason, I'm like, I'm going. She's like, I have no idea why. And she's like, and I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know where it was. And it was summer, so we couldn't go then. We had to like wait for the season, and my son decided to help me. And she's like, and my son has grandkids, I love them, but my son and I were the ones who went. So like, it changed my relationship with my son. And she's like, I'm here to tell you, you have to say yes to play in your lives. And so like, all of that is to say, like, I was hoping as we got together and over lunch, because one of the things we loved, like a lot of us like to eat, a big thing came out about like food, and we were talking about play and stuff like this. And we are eating, no disrespect to the certain, like we're eating conference food, so, some of you are like, oh, that's fine, but sometimes it's like home cooked meal. That's like one of the best ways you can like bond with a person. Like, what do you care about? What do you like? I remember my wife and I joking when we first started dating. She's like, I made my lasagna. And she's like, you didn't know this, but if you didn't like lasagna, it was over. And I was like, how can you not like your lasagna? She's like, I know, we got married, Because her lasagna is to die for, and like, it's the reason I'm 50 pounds overweight. Well, it's not her fault. I just can't stop, no. So anyways, all of that to say, like, what was really, really fun was thinking about like how play matters to us. So I'd love to encourage us, just, no mics, because one time I did this and like, can we record it? And I felt like I asked if we were doing this, not have it re-recorded, because it was fine, but everybody was waiting for the mic. And I think everybody was a bit self-censoring, going, well, I'm mic'd, so I'm going to be a little careful about what I say. So, I think it's more fun and more playful to be like, oh, this reminds me of, this in my life. So does anybody feel comfortable, willing to like talk about something where like, okay, here's how I think play fits in my life. And I know I've interviewed some of you. I see you in the room, so I know you have stories to share. And I will pick on you otherwise. That's right, I'm looking at you. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? All right, hold on, my mouth's full.
Talk about the essay I wrote for Play Story Press.
Please do.
Yeah. Hi, I see you. Just because it's like a good story of play, I think. So I'm a teacher, and I played a game called Emily is Away with my students. Does anyone play it? Emily is Away?
Oh, such a good
Really
essay.
cool game, really short experience, and a great, like, if you grew up with AIM, and like, it's very like nostalgic. And I play with my students in a room such as this with a bunch of people, how's this? Better? Like, they want to show off. So they're like, we're playing, we're making decisions together, and people are like joking, who can crack the best joke kind of thing. And then this is what I wrote the essay about. It's like what it was like to play this experience in an auditorium with a ton of teenagers, and then what it was like to play the same game with people my age in a private setting where it's like less, I mean, you were just talking about like what it's like when you have the mic versus when you're just like in an informal environment. And turns out it was like, went from one experience was like really, there's so much humor and like people trying to show off for each other, and then one experience was very like somber. And you know, because the game is like, it deals with themes of like domestic abuse. So I wouldn't say it's a game about domestic abuse, but if you've played it, you know what I mean, right? And yeah, I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. It's a cool game. I would definitely recommend it.
I mean, did you notice the distinction between the sort of adults like friends and the kids and how they engaged?
Yeah. So at first the kids were like, I'll give an example. One of the choices you have to make is you play as a person talking on AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, to this girl named Emily. And one of the first choices she asks you to make is like, she's like, I like Coldplay. What do you think about Coldplay? And there's options that's like, Coldplay is my favorite band, or like, I don't know, I'll look them up. And one of them is like, they're trash, I hate them. And so the kids were like, they're trash, I hate them, because that's funny. And they were like, let's get a laugh out of everyone. And that kept going. They kept kind of like roasting Emily until it became real. And then they were like, wait, I actually really want to be friends with her, right? Whereas with me and my friends, it was kind of like, oh, like if Emily likes Coldplay, let's say we like them too, because we want her to feel, you know, like included and special. So it totally like different vibe. Yeah.
Any other? I mean, I think we're not recording, so the mic might just help project. If you feel like you need a mic to project. Apparently, I do not. Who cares? No, I don't care. Okay, we're recording. Damn, the games for shit. No, I'm joking. Anything else people would like to share? Like building on that, I think the difference, like thinking about how kids are different than adults, huge theme is how we culturally are sort of like slowly told to be less playful. And how it's like, and coming out of the pandemic, a lot of us are like, but wait, I need friends. I need to socialize. And we're all trying to like relearn that muscle of like having fun. Games for Change was my first conference after the pandemic. And it was really weird to go like, can I hug you? You know, because I hate to even say it, but I am a very huggy person. At certain times you're like, that's a good thing. And after the pandemic, it's like, I want to make sure people are comfortable. I remember during the pandemic, everything on Zoom, like, I made sure I was the butt of every joke, because one time I joked, sort of like teased a friend online, and I hurt their feelings. I was just like, just trying to play around, lighten the mood. But, you could tell they're like, why are you picking on me? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I will never pick on you again. I will be the butt. And then somebody brought up like, oh, but you're a white guy, so it's easy to always be the fool and not lose status. But like, do people sort of feel that in their lives of like ways that they have to like fight? And it came up a lot with women going, well, I've been told as a woman trying to be professional, like, I have to be taken seriously, and being playful might undercut that.
So people define playing very different ways, right? They're like play as an activity, but also play as a mindset in which you approach life. And thank you. With regards to the latter category, a play as a mindset. Unfortunately, I think in the age of like AI and technology, the intensification of like people's expectations for performance and output has like risen by an order of magnitude. And so, for example, my husband's a software engineer, and for him, writing code used to be an art and a form of play. Like, he loved doing that. But now, because the companies are expecting him to use AI to write code. Now he's like almost like grieving and like not enjoying his work anymore, and dreams of a day when he can just quit and like just work for the sake of like producing quality output. And I was just curious if you had thoughts about, like, despite the social cultural kind of force that we and like the expectations that we live in, like how can we keep a playful mindset, and yeah, somehow still create that when like materially it can be hard.
Well, I'm gonna answer that and put you back on the spot. Because I met Ye Jing through, I was asking about tools. And one of my colleagues who does a lot of qualitative research was like, oh, you should talk to, I'm blanking on his name, why am I blanking on his name? At SMU.
Oh, Kenneth Go.
Kenneth Go. Kenneth Go, who I'd done some studies with when he was a PhD candidate at CMU. Now he's at Singapore Management University. And I reached out to him and he's like, oh, you should talk to this woman named Ye Jing. We were at a business conference and we were the only two people who were talking about play, which no surprise. So you were talking about how a lot of times you've been advised as a woman who's studying play in an MBA type context to maybe not do that.
Not too bad.
Not to study play. Like it's risky.
Yeah.
Like how have you handled that?
Oh, but then you have to answer my question about AI.
Okay, fair. I'll answer yours if you answer mine.
Well,
Trade off.
yeah, how I've handled it. Well, to be honest, I couldn't have done it alone. I received like mentorship and guidance from so many people, including like very early on, including professors like Jonathan Haidt, and then later on people like you, Drew, Gavin, and so many people who have told me this is like the most important topic that needs to be studied and currently neglected. So you should be known for the person studying play for adults. So I think that empowerment was key. Also the privilege of being in an elite institution that has resources to study, that's real. At NYU does have a lot of resources. I'm aware of that.
So many resources, you donated a research assistant to me.
I know. I'm only so. Yeah. Yes, exactly the privilege, right? So despite being a woman, I do think I have other forms of privilege that I need to acknowledge. And then lastly, I chose to pursue academia, like because research was for me like something I was very passionate and like a form of play, I guess. And so I don't want to spend 6 years of my life studying something just because I could try to like game and strategize to like enter a top business school as a professor. I'd rather just really enjoy the process, and if I don't get a job, so be it. So I think that helped as well.
Like, I'm gonna say, I'd love for somebody else to help me answer Ye Jing's question about how do we think play exists in a world with AI, because I think AI is a thorn in all of our sides in some ways. And I've talked to some people here who are all in to AI. They're in the tank, literally trying to convince me Elon Musk is a good guy. If you think that, God bless you. I disagree wholeheartly. I think AI is highly problematic. I'm a huge fan of Audrey Watters, Watters. Do you remember her? She got sort of internet famous for hack education back in the day. And she's writing under her handle of Second Breakfast. And I think she does the most historically in-depth critique of what AI is as a field, going all the way back. Her book she published is called Thinking Machines, and it's amazing. So I love having that perspective, because like AIs that can be useful. Like Cory Doctorow, are people familiar with Cory Doctorow? In Shitification, his new book's out about reverse centaurs. So the whole idea of reverse centaurs, for those who might not know, is a centaur is a person who's working with machine, but the person's in control. A reverse centaur is you're working with machine, the machine's in the control. And so an example he uses, I thought pretty cleverly, was like Amazon workers. Like you're on the algorithm's driving you, the algorithm's gonna get you fired if you don't stay on your work, you know. Another great one he does, you remember that guy who published all those summer book reading lists, and they turned out they were hallucinated? So there were unreal books on there. So he was a reverse centaur. And then Cory's like, well, an example of a centaur using AI is, I use AI because I had 800 hours of audio transcripts. And I was like, God, somewhere in there, there's this great quote. And It's 800 hours. How the hell am I going to find that? And he used AI to help him find it, and it helped him find it, and he got it, and he sorted it. And he's like, so AI worked for me in a way that allowed me to find a quote pretty handily. So a big thing that came up when I was doing this is a lot of people were like, when are you going to let AI at that data? And I'm like, maybe because it's open, like you can download the book and let AI have at it if you want. But I was like, I'm going to show my age. I'm like, come from the school where like I read those interviews at least 6 times. I interviewed them, and because of doing that work, and it was work, I think it changed who I am as a person. And the insights that came out of it came from that struggle, doing that work. I could have pushed a button and said, hey, give me a neat summary of these 175, and it wouldn't have affected me at all. And I think that's the thing that's missing with AI is how it helps you. And that's why like your husband, sorry, I was about to say boyfriend, your husband's grieving. It's because like code at one level, you were the most autonomous worker in this country. You were like top, you got to ask for the salaries, and people were like, please do the work, and you're like, I will be brilliant for you, and I will create amazing things. And now it's sort of like you're cleaning up AI's mess, and we're told you have to use AI. But it's moving so fast. Like in the last 6 months ago, we were being told by our industry colleagues, we need students who know how to use AI. That's the requirement. They got to be proficient in how to work with it, and how to prompt, and how to think about tokens. And now we don't need students who know how to use AI. We found that their ideas are flat, uncreative, and they're actually causing problems. And like the best quote I heard is like, it's a B student being able to do A work while becoming a C student, because they lose it. And they're like, we're finding that, particularly juniors, like I think it was out of Stanford, showed that experts and A students benefit the most because they have the discernment. They already can make those judgment calls because they have that within them because of the work they've done. Students that are struggling or junior employees who don't have that yet are not getting the chance to build that muscle because they're just going, AI will do the answer and I'll get it done. And then somebody has to clean it up. So they're finding that there's churn happening and quality's dropping, so companies are moving back, and it's too expensive. AI, like if you get into the economics, tokens cost too much, and companies are like, oh God, we gotta back off. Particularly when people are like, you're telling me I have to use tokens. I use tokens to make a PowerPoint. I use tokens to write my document. I use tokens to summarize my email. It says in the thing, do you want me to summarize? You know, like I was joking with somebody, it's like, it was only 2 paragraphs, but it offered to summarize it, you know? And so now they're backing off going, please, 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 don't do that. Because it's too expensive and we're finding it's flat. And like one guy was like, colleague was like, I was all in. I talked to it all the time. He was trying to be a centaur. I was trying to use it to help me. And he's like, apropos of nothing, a colleague came up and was like, are you okay? And he was like, oh yeah, why, what's going on? He's like, I just noticed in like the last 3 months, the quality of your writing has really dropped and I was worried about you. And he was like, I had to quit AI cold right there. He's like, I'm not thinking like I used to think. And my colleagues are noticing it negatively. And so like, there's that whole thing of like, we're all working that out. It's so just like 1/3 of our economy is tied up in AI now, artificially. And so it's like, we're holding the bag as they make these bets that they think might happen. And I don't think Silicon Valley has their best interests at heart. There's like a techno, you know, like there's all kinds of like, you're gonna see my stripes of what I care about. And I care about us. And like the thing that makes me so passionate about this, and I'd love to hear other people's, like as JG think about it, is like, if we wanna make change, we gotta think about how to do things differently. Because it's not working for everybody. And I'd like to think about doing something differently, is like to get out, like, that's to be playful. How do we do something we've never done before? Like, we've gotta be creative, we've gotta try, you know, it's like, that's where it comes from. It comes from us, and AI can't do that. AI can't give you something it's never seen before. It's gonna give you the generic answer that's statistically parallel to everything it's ever read. So, like, what's sad is your husband's like in the heart of it where AI is really, really smart at things it's read online, but what, 90% of all human knowledge is not online? And it's not embodied. I do believe in embodied, not, you know, stuff like that. You know, how we think about that. So like, I think there's hope out there and there's ways to fight. Like Corey's book's really interesting. Like his new one on reverse centaur. Reverse centaur, yeah. I'm like halfway through. I'm all, okay, crazy plug to go the other direction just because I'm in love with this book. Is anybody a fan of Shakespeare? Talk about humans. And somebody's like, nah, Shakespeare's overrated. There's this wonderful new book called If This Be Magic. It's written by a translator named Daniel Hahn. and he talks to 50 other professional translators about how they translate Shakespeare into other languages. And it is brilliant and beautiful. Like the chapter right before I landed was on commas. You know, and it's, for some it'd be like, what the hell? But it's like commas are used differently in different languages. Like German, it's a rule and you stick to it. But like Shakespeare is meant to be read aloud. So they're doing the scripts. So they're translating for things to be oral. So there's wordplay. And it's oral wordplay. You know, like you can read it and you get it, but if it's said out loud, it's a homophone. And so like, how do you do that? And so it's just a wonderful thing about us being clever and creative. And I can't do that. Like what's his name? He likes to mess around with AI, and the latest experiment was so funny. He just asked AI if it could count to 100. He's like, can you count to 100? And AI could not. None of the engines could do it because they kept talking to him. And then they'd start, and then they'd ask a question, and he's like, none of them could. Can you just count to 100? And it's a hilarious video because then he like tries to get them to do it together. Any of us can do that. You know, we can do that. You know, has anybody played the game called is it The Mind?
Yes.
The Mind?
That's a fun game.
Okay, tell us about it.
So the Mind, you have, you deal out the cards, and the cards go from one.
Oh, I see. They're cheating. They're pointing a mic at me. I see how you are.
Yeah. So it's from 1 to 99. There might be 4 people playing, and you can't communicate verbally. And you have
You're
to,
supposed to not be too expressive with your
right,
face.
that's true too. There's
It's hard.
You're right. You're not supposed to express anything, and you're trying to go in order from 1 to 99. Like, so in other words, the lowest number each round. Or wait, is that right? Like,
Yeah,
is eventually
because you're
but
dealing.
you don't have all the cards.
Right.
Okay. Right. Otherwise, you would just do it. So you're trying to go in order for based on the cards you have. I want to put the lowest number down. I want you to put the next lowest, or whatever order out of the 4 of us. You know, maybe Drew's going to put the next lowest. And the best I could kind of do is, like, I mean, when I play, I'm like, kind of, you know, like, you hold off. You know, you're trying to figure out. Like, I have a 7, which might be low. You know, you might have an 8. We're really both feeling the same thing. Like, we're both close. You know. And each one you get wrong, there's a penalty, and then, you know, whatever. You see how far you can get by the end, but it's really, I mean, it's a...
And it's bizarre when you get on a roll, because you're like, how the hell are we doing this? like, and you get on these long rolls where you're like, we're gonna fuck this up now. Because you're not talking, you're just like, I got a 25, and then somebody's like, I got a 30. And
There's an improv game.
Okay,
It's
that's
the
one.
same thing. That's without the cards or anything. It's just you stand in a circle, and then a different person has to say the next number, and you're just counting. But if 2 people say it at the
Right.
same
That's like
time, then you have to start again. And you'd think that it would just be like basically random, but no, you get better, and you can count to higher and higher numbers collectively by sort of getting a sense of each other's timing. Yeah.
And there's always that, we're waiting, well, somebody's gonna say something, right?
Yeah.
Playing chicken.
Someone's gonna say 7.
All right, so I'm gonna pick on you. Improv came up a lot. How do you think about improv and play?
I mean, what's the difference? Yeah, no, I mean, they're called players, the people who do improv, and they're on a team rather than in a troupe or something.
Mhm.
Although troupe is kind of play coded too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so much about just being a good person. I feel like that's encoded in the rules of improv. That
Like rules for
makes
living.
you a good player as well.
Mm-hmm. That came, like, speaking of translation, I talked to a couple people who are multilingual. So the idea of like how English play is really, like English in general, is such a crazy polyglot of language. So like play can mean so many different things. And then somebody, and then there's like, oh no, but in Spanish it's much more distinct, but it's, and that was fascinating, just like how you think about it. Like I grew up on the water, so play is really shaped a lot by me of like, oh, is the weather good? So can I go skiing, or can I go sailing, or can I go swimming? And we have hurricanes, so all of a sudden it's like, it's dangerous. Like, oh, like dark play, can play be bad? Because play can be transgressively.
Playing with someone's feelings.
Being a bully, pranks. If you're the butt of the prank, you're like, well, that wasn't fun for me. I'm soaked. Everybody else thought it was funny.
But it's called a practical joke.
I know,
What
right?
could be wrong about that?
So I think you could,
It's both
it's
practical
interesting.
and a joke.
Any other thoughts on like AI and play, or have like play that's positive in their lives? Anybody have kids? Tell me more.
Oh, the only one with kids.
No, but I looked at you when you were streaming.
I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I also have 3 pets. So there's a lot of play in my house. There's frequently, we actually play more a lot of more like card games and tabletop games than anything else. And our pets will also try and join, which, adds to the general chaos.
Boy, girl?
Yes,
Same.
one of each. The boy is 15, the girl is 13.
Do they play differently in ways that you're like, ooh, interesting?
They're very competitive. I would like it if they were a little more collaborative, but
So they
they're
take after you. So
very collaborative. But
More
yeah.
collaborative than anyone.
Most collaborative person here.
well done. But that was good.
Yeah.
No, you reminded me. I had a friend who has twins, and it's boy girl, and she's like, we work so hard not to gender play, and she's like, but they play so differently, and we're like, how? And they're like, we know they're in a world that, genders play at them, but they're like, it's just so fascinating how something that changed. Like there's a wonderful book called Kingdom of Play, and it's sort of like the latest research on animal play from around the world and how we play. And he does a wonderful job walking us through the history of it, of like, okay, here's the theories, we figured out that's not true. Okay, here's another proffered theory, and he kind of lands on a theory that it has yet to been shot down, and that play is preparation for the unexpected. And we do it socially. Like I ran a session yesterday at Cooney Center where we were talking about play with some people, and we had a psychologist who's like, play is how we make uncertainty certain. Like we're like testing the boundaries and like, oh wait, I get this. And kids do that naturally. They're like, what does this taste like? I'll put my, I had a friend when he was a kid, loved the glow of the radiator. So he was like, I want to look in. And he showed up at school with like burn lines. And we're like, what did you do? We're like, you idiot. Because kids are cruel. Never. He learned that one. He was also the kid that put a key in an electric socket. That can happen. And I'm like, what do you think was going to happen, man? Yeah, right?
Did he make it to adulthood?
Yeah, he did. We all have this stuff. Well, like we were joking too. I know. It's like, oh, I don't. Some of you are young. Like, oh, my idiotic past is not online. It's pre-digital because I was an idiot and I did some things. I broke some laws. And it's just like, how did I live? Like the one time I was like, I can pass this truck in the ditch.
Oh.
And I did, and everybody's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we got it. Anyways. All right, what do you have to share? I'm just picking on you because you're right here.
I was just gonna say I have a 1-year-old baby.
Whoa,
and so,
congratulations.
Thank you. And I think play is just always, we're always playing. And so I feel like I don't know where I read it, but like if anything is hard, like a diaper change or whatever, just make it playful. Just be fun. Just be silly, be crazy, whatever. And then it changes everything completely. Obviously, you have raised 2 children and have way more experience, but in my 1 year of being a mom, like everything we do is play. We also have a dog who's 2.5 years old, and so we're all playing. Yes, she's the best. And so we're always playing together. And so I feel like I feel like I've been a playful person always, but since this 1 year of having a baby, like play is now just always, like, every day.
There's like some great video of like a doctor who's giving a baby a shot. And he does this whole thing where he's like tap, 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 and he's singing a song, and then he just sneaks the shot in there. Baby doesn't even notice. The baby's just like, this is the best day ever. So what's been your biggest surprise as a mom? Or a surprise as a mom?
Well, I'm blessed with a baby who sleeps really well, so I'm really surprised
Oh.
by that. I was ready to like really not sleep for a long time, but
Because I hear they win with sleep deprivation, those kids.
they what?
They win by sleep
Yes.
deprivation.
Yeah, but so far, knock on wood, he's been a sleepy baby, but I don't know how much joy it's brought into my life. I've always loved kids. I was a elementary school teacher in Brooklyn here for 6 years.
And you
a
still
while
love
ago.
kids?
I still love kids, and I was like so excited to have my own kid because I felt like when I was a teacher, I was obsessed with my kids, my students. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been so much joy.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Well, like building on that, thinking about like a 1-year-old and talking about how the kids play, a lot of us have experienced this. School slowly makes you feel like you shouldn't. But like, and I think not only just school, society. Your parents might say it. You're sitting, like sit still. Like I remember that old New Yorker cartoon that was like, I figured out kindergarten. It's all about bladder control and keeping quiet. And it's like, oh, it's kind of sad, but not inaccurate. So what, how, yeah, James' point, how do we feel like pushing back on that? What do you think? Do people feel like they're playful in their lives? Like in one way, it's like I had a kid, and all of a sudden I have to play. Like I have a dog. Like that dog has expectations that involve walks. Yes, please.
Not me, I just graduated, but my friends, all and my partner, all have full-time jobs, and their way of incorporating play after working 3 hours a day is doing Dungeons and Dragons like weekly. So they always will make 3 hours dedicated to spending time together doing D&D. We just started another campaign. There's 2 campaigns running weekly. So I think that's their way to like still get together, have some fun, even when they're like stressed with work. They still will make that time.
There's something too, it's interesting because Dungeons and Dragons came a lot in the interviews. And one of the things a lot of people who are my age, 50s and above, were like, what's interesting? I remember those campaigns. Like you're forming memories together in ways that are really substantial. When you like share a story and like do some like role playing together. Like yesterday at the session, Nick Fortuna, who's probably around, who's been doing D&D since, what did he say, since he was 6? 5. Yeah, like 5 or 6. And like literally was GMing because he's like, my 13-year-old cousin taught me this and I'm teaching my friends. And like he's like, I get invited a lot with parents to go like, our kids are playing D&D, help us understand. And he's like, I just help them role play. And he's like, and it's amazing to just give us the permissions. Part of it that kind of came up was like, how do, like kids, safety is an interesting term because you need to feel safe to take the risk because play can feel risky. Like doing improv, sometimes you might look like the fool or you might not land that line or like I tried to tell a cute joke and I hurt my friend's feelings, And so like it's like you have to feel comfortable enough and safe enough. It's like, so how do we start feeling like that? So like, I'm not risking my career, or like, I'm not going to crack a joke in front of the dean, or things like that come up a lot. You have an idea, I can tell.
We had a friend that was scared to do D&D. She thought she was going to
tell
really
us more.
silly. But we told her it's going to be okay, and all of us have like voices. We all said each one of us will have a silly voice, and we just do that together. And I think that kind of like took the pressure off because we said we'll be silly together. And honestly, it's a lot of fun just practicing voices we never use.
All right, so believe it or not, we're at time. Because you all are amazing. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it. And like, if you're curious, you can look at the book. It's somewhere around here somewhere. And you can also download it for free. And like on the last note, like what I love about doing sessions like this is like we just shared attention with each other, and that's like a grace of each other. Like we listened and we shared, and like I feel like that's how we're going to make change. Can we have these conversations and like make like I joke, I was like, just by talking to people, my life's better. That's how easy it is. Go for a walk, play D&D, all of a sudden your life's a little better. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.